The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pack Wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Ryan Reinhardt.
We are back with an exciting new episode of the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. In this episode, it is solely devoted to the Wolfpack's 2018-19 schedule. We haven't released this yet on Go Packers social media, so this will be a first look. We're going to break down some of the matchups, give you some of the dates, and just talk about the upcoming wrestling season. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt, and fresh off of compiling the Excel sheet with this year's schedule is the head coach of the Wolfpack, Pat Popolizio.
Good afternoon, Brian. It's going to be a good one.
Pat, you've been on that computer for days. I've never seen you type so much, but it looks like we're finally about to have a completed schedule here.
Definitely. I was defending off all these emails and tweets I was getting from certain people calling us out for not releasing our schedule, so it's go time.
We appreciate alumni like Nick Wisdowski and Bill Cook having a keen interest.
Yeah, and their friends.
I just promised this whole episode would be about the schedule, but I would be a bit remiss if I didn't go back to a couple weeks ago as you guys had your first ever golf outing, the Wolfpack Wrestling Club. 5 of the 7 former national champions were back in Raleigh to enjoy a great weekend. And how much fun did you have, not even just at the golfing event, but you guys had a big group dinner, had a tailgate, went to the football game. Just, you got to interact with a lot of alums all weekend.
Yeah, that was an action-packed weekend. It was great to get these guys back in town, get some energy going, get them revived and involved in the program to continue to help grow things across the board. And that was a step in the right direction because these guys definitely are excited to be a part of this, and I'm happy that they're coming around now, and it's going to be something to continue to build on as years to come.
Saw a couple of tweets. You were on the driving range. Probably a good call you did not golf this year.
Yeah, that's a given. I think a couple other people could have used the same mentality on that as well.
But the Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast, we were able to catch up with one of those former Wolfpack national champions, current Bellator world champion, Darion Caldwell. Great interview on the podcast. So if you missed the last episode, please go back in the archives and give it a listen. He was on his best behavior and gave a very PG interview. So back to what our fans want to know, this year's schedule. Pat, the schedule is always a bunch of moving parts until it's finalized. With you guys sharing Reynolds Coliseum with our women's basketball team and the gymnastics team, there are a lot of people involved with nailing down specific home dates. Can you take us through some of the process of how you 3 teams work together in scheduling Reynolds? Yeah,
that's a very challenging situation, is to get the whole schedule organized. There's a lot of moving components, as you talked about. You throw in some campus events going in there as well. You also have certain teams can only compete on certain days, so there's a big challenge to it. And at the same time, you got to keep in mind the high school season runs parallel with ours, so we have to be strategic on when we compete in certain matches so we can draw our crowd. Our attendances continue to grow, so that's a huge part of the process and continuing to build our program. So, we're cautious of all these things, and it is. It's one facility that we typically get to compete out of, so we got to get creative. And I think this year we kind of figured that out, and I'm happy to get things finalized now.
Some good strategery.
Yes, you need that. The working of a lot of people brainstorming on locations.
And as far as duels go, you have 5 ACC duels every year and a few home and homes. But in regards to some of these one-offs, is the process as simple as you sending an email or text to a fellow coach to see how their schedule's looking?
Yeah, the ACC is basically set up. We know what weekend it's going to be at. You typically have a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday you can pick depending on when the facility's free. So I think the next 3 years are mapped out for that, so we do know the ACC, and then outside of that, we get to pick our opponents that we're trying to continue to do home and aways with, and that gets a little challenging at times because everybody's trying to do what's best for their program, and some of that is trying to get some good teams here into Raleigh, and that's last year we were able to do that. This year I think we're right on track to do it again. But we want to keep seeing different conferences, some high-level teams to get a good fan base going. And, it's a work in progress. It's not an easy thing to do because, at the end of the day, there's coaches that get to decide whether or not they compete where and when.
And like every year, there's a debate out there among college wrestling fans about the importance of duels versus tournaments. But a couple of facts about your program I wanted to get out there. NC State has finished in the top 10 in the final NWCA USA Today coaches poll each of the last 3 seasons, number 6 this past year. NC State's been ranked in the top 10 for the last 40 polls over the last 3 seasons, after not having been ranked in the top 10 since 1993. And also over the last 3 seasons, NC State ranked second nationally in dual winning percentage at 91%, having won 51 of the last 56 duels. So, yeah, duels are great for crowd support, but you really stress the importance of them during the season to your guys.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to win, and dual meets and winning create a good atmosphere, a positive atmosphere, and a fan base. And you got 2 hours to come in, watch some high level, great wrestling, some of the best kids in the country, and it's an event. We've added some things every year to make things more of an event. I feel like we're able to do that again this year with certain dual meets and make it very entertaining and give people the opportunity to get here early, barbecue. Some are on Friday nights, some are going to be Sunday, and a few Saturdays that might pop in there as well. But I think it's a well-balanced schedule that will be able to work for everybody to get here for a couple duels.
And before we dive into the schedule, classes have been going on for a couple of weeks. Off-season conditioning, of course, has started too. How are the preseason workouts going? What kind of things have you had the guys doing?
Yeah, I think we're a couple weeks in. We had a little delay due to the hurricane, and really hoping that everybody in the state of North Carolina is recovering from that, and things are going well for the people that have been affected by that. And we're going to participate here in the upcoming football game and some of the things that the department's doing to give back a little bit. But yeah, we had to take a little pause for training last couple days, but we made up for it as soon as we were able to get back, getting our morning workouts going. Basically a lot of building back some conditioning, a lot of agilities, some running here and there, a lot of lifting. Coach Craven's been doing a great job getting guys, going where we need them right now. So we're just getting back in rhythm and the swing of things, kind of routine more than anything. And we have a lot of new faces in our lineup, so going from high school to college is a major transition. And at the end of the day, we're teaching these guys the level they need to be working at to put themselves in position to win a national title, whether it's this coming year or at some point in their career. They got to be battle tested, and it starts with what we do in our preseason.
On to the main event, the Wolfpack's 2018-19 complete schedule preview. And we start with the second annual Outdoor Expo, which will be taking place on Saturday, November 3rd at the Close King Indoor Football Facility before the Florida State football game. Second year in a row you guys have set up before a football game. Great crowd last year, came out to watch some matches. What kind of format will they be able to see this year?
Yeah, that was definitely a great event that we did last year, kind of right before the kickoff to the football game. So we had just a couple different people that maybe weren't exposed to wrestling before, got to come out, see it, understand it a little bit, and hopefully we were able to get them to come back for a match. But we'll have some weight classes that are up for grabs, and that's what we plan to do, is get those guys that are close in competition, get there, compete, and basically rank out where we're at. From 1, 2 to 3 if we need to do it with some depth at each weight. That's where we're at finally. So there's definitely some weight classes that are going to be up for grabs, and there's going to be some weight classes that I think guys that are in a good spot are going to get pushed and challenged, and it's either going to make them work harder or we're going to see a new face in our lineup. And I think that's what makes a good program, is some new competition, some young blood that wants to make a name for themselves.
First weekend of the season, you guys are once again traveling up to New York and taking part in the Journeyman Collegiate Classic. I know you like the format of how they put each team's wrestlers into a pod and everybody's guaranteed 3 matches, and there's always a lot of good teams up there, and you guys see a lot of good action.
Yes, that's going to be a great event. My brother runs that. He's been doing it now for quite a while. I forget the year that he's in, definitely probably over 15 years, and we've been going to it all but 1 year. I think my first year here was the only year that I haven't been at that event. Even as an assistant coach at other programs, we went up there. So he runs a first-class event. It's what I love about that is one of those where you're basically done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we're able to catch a flight home on Sunday. But we're going to see a good variety of competition, and where we're at, it's a little different than going to an open tournament where we know we're going to see Division I competition, so we can make sure we hit our mark with seeing high-level, good quality competition, especially D1 kids.
The first home event of the season, it's also the busiest weekend of action here in Raleigh. Saturday, November 17th, you guys host the annual Wolfpack Duels. This year, UNC Pembroke, Reinhardt, and Davidson come to town. Then the very next day on Sunday, the Wolfpack Wrestling Club Open is over in Carmichael. Busy weekend of home action, but a great chance for you guys to get a lot of matches in, including those that are playing on redshirting at the Open.
Yeah, and that's what that weekend's about right there is getting as many matches in as we can, mixing up our lineup the best we can, kind of setting the tone for our season. I'm happy that Davidson is coming here for the first time in a while. I think we wrestled them my first year here, and now they're back on our schedule, and it's great because there's a lot of really good, tough teams in the state of North Carolina that hopefully we can continue to grow to wrestle them. And Davidson was willing to come here this year, so that's a positive there. And we'll have a good mixture of competition from our guys and weighing in, the majority of the guys on our roster that aren't redshirting, and then we'll carry that over 2-day weigh-in going into the Wolfpack Open. So we basically set our season up, back-to-back weigh-ins, kind of set the tone, making sure guys are in check. And if they're not, at least they get to figure things out early in the season, and that's kind of what that weekend's about. It's a long year, and this is just the start of it to kind of put guys in a position to see some different things that they need to work on, whether it's nutrition or, some technical skills.
And speaking of those red shirts, how do you determine what open tournaments they're going to be going to during the season, and how many matches are you comfortable with them getting as they get acquainted to college wrestling?
Yeah, I think every kid's at a different situation. You got to take advantage of when you're healthy because those tournaments are hard to come by, so we try to get them in as quick as we can, hoping that our guys are healthy in the beginning of the year. And if not, then we got to get a little more creative and get on the road and typically, we want to see between 25 to 30 matches, depending on where kids at in the bracket. If you're winning all these open tournaments, it's hard to get that many matches. If you get caught up in the wrestlebacks and you're picking up, 2 or 3 extra matches in those tournaments, then you can easily get over 30 matches. So we're fortunate enough to have tournaments right here in the state of North Carolina and in Virginia. There's a lot of new ones that are popping up, so we'll be sending our guys typically within about a 4 or 5 hour radius from here, depending on weather and who's healthy. But we're going to have a lot of guys redshirting this year. Brought in 17 new guys, and I would say the majority of them will probably end up hitting that redshirt circuit.
You have a new GA. He's really pumped up about going back to the redshirt circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be great for him.
Personal driver.
He needs to start from rock bottom, work his way back up in the coaching rankings, and we're going to test his mental toughness, this actually physical toughness too as well. But yeah, Kevin Jack's going to be working quite a lot on some of these road trips.
First road duel of the season sees the Wolfpack traveling up to Old Dominion on Thursday, November 29th. It's turned into a yearly series. You guys have won the last 4, but ODU has always made these matchups a little too close for comfort, and they're returning nationally ranked guys in a few of the lower weight classes.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's been a home and away series for a while now, so that's been great, and it's close enough where we're a couple hours away, and we drive up there, get a good duel in, and you're right, it's always a battle-tested duel, and looking forward to that because it is basically our first single duel of the year, so we got to be ready for that one as we always see some really tough, good competition.
And December sees a pair of home duels. First, Appalachian State visits Reynolds on Tuesday, December 4th. The Pack has won the last 5 meetings, including one at Boone last year, but the Mountaineers returned 3 NCAA qualifiers and have won 3 straight Southern Conference championships. A good in-state rival every year for you guys.
Yes, and that's the whole reason why we get that competition in, because it's another one in-state, and they're always got really good, tough kids. when they come here, they have a good fan base that typically shows up. And then I know when we go over there, it's a really rowdy place to wrestle, and you kind of want to be in those atmospheres. And, again, it's another school and state that's willing to wrestle us, and that's what we need right now is to continue to build the state of North Carolina up, and that's what these matches do, and this is a little bit of state pride on the line. So, John Mark Bentley's done a phenomenal job over there, and just happy and excited to be able to continue to build on these dual meets, and that's going to be a good one to start right here in Reynolds.
The second home duel in December looks like a matchup of two top 10 teams as Nebraska comes to town on Sunday, December 16th. Stat Geek and me found a great stat. The last 4 matchups dating back to 2015, the road team has actually won each time. So I know you guys really want to get this home win. Huskers, number 7 in the preseason. 6 of their 10 starters ranked in the top 10 at their weight class. Last year, you guys posted a huge signature win in their gym, 29-3. And this year's matchup looks to feature a lot of ranked matchups.
Absolutely. That's that's one of those duels that I think is going to be starred on the year with some of the matchups that are going to be individually and as a team. I think you said it best. The teams on the road have always won, so that's something we were aware of. And we also know off of last year's performance, I'm sure that's a date that Nebraska has circled. And they're going to bring their best wrestling to Reynolds. And that's going to make us better, and we better be ready for that challenge, and our guys know it. And I know that's something that's started on our calendar to make that a first-class event for the fans coming in here. And hopefully we're able to lay out the red carpet for that and put all the bells and whistles out and make that an exciting dual meet.
Last year, you guys went over to Italy over winter break. This year, it's down to Florida for the South Beach Duels, December 29th and 30th. The event has really grown over the last 2 years, and you guys have matchups scheduled against Indiana, Purdue, Utah Valley, and Wyoming. So I kind of want to ask, what made you decide to take part in these duels as opposed to going to a tournament such as Midlands or the Southern Scuffle?
Well, I think from the experience that we gained as a team being in Italy for the 5 to 6 days that led up to that dual meet were critical on the team bonding and the friendships and just the adversity of different events that occurred with our training and just traveling and little things that, our guys, I think, gained a lot as athletes and as people. I wanted to do the same this year, and obviously we can't go out of the country every year with NCAA rules. So this is one we're going to spend about 5 days together down in Florida. We're going to train there. We're going to compete there. It's a back-to-back weigh-in, which I'm most was kind of what I wanted to get most out of this is get 2 weigh-ins in a row, plus 1 and 1 hour weigh-in, so we can kind of see where we're at middle of the year, because we're going to do it in the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and then obviously we do it at the end of the year. So that's kind of the test there, and wanting to see some new teams, some new competitions. It's hard to get home and aways with everybody, but this was a good neutral site that we can see some different competition. Obviously getting to wrestle some Big Ten teams, I think is extremely valuable alongside of, the other teams that we're able to wrestle there. They're all going to be very good, tough, quality competition across the board, individually and as dual meets.
The new year starts with a trip up to Ohio State on January 6th, which is probably going to start the season number 2 nationally. The Buckeyes lost 3 4-time All-Americans, but just reloaded as 6 of their starters are ranked in the top 5 in their weight class. They came to Reynolds last season and left with a win, so I think it's safe to say your guys have a little bit of extra motivation for this road trip.
Yeah, that's one, I think when you look back, last year's scheduling wasn't the best to put our guys in peak performance, but it was one that I think helped us at the end of the year when we needed to be at our best. You got to see this level of competition. Coach Ryan and, their program there speaks for themselves, the results they've put in, and they're going to have a huge crowd going into Columbus. That's kind of the atmosphere we want to compete in, and we want to be battle tested at that point. And every single guy they're going to put in their lineup, is going to be top notch. So, yeah, that's one. Mid-year we're going to have a great test, see where we're at, and every guy's going to have somebody there that can compete at the highest level. So that's one that we're looking forward to, and I think we're going to make some big gains off that weekend.
3 straight weekends of home duels in Reynolds come up next with 4 duels over that time. The weekend of January 11th to 13th, we will see Brown and West Virginia both in Raleigh. both of those teams, they've had a lot of turnover from last year's roster, and WVU has a coaching change as well. But how do you see those two duels?
Yeah, new competition. Getting Brown down here, we don't typically get to see them, so I think that's going to be exciting and something new for our guys. Another program that we haven't competed against one-on-one. West Virginia, like you said, has a new coach now, Flynn, who did a phenomenal job at Edinboro. He's put out some of the best teams in the country, and obviously guys that have won national titles. So I think with time, he's going to have that program right where they need to be, and that's it's a program probably has had some changes between coaches and roster, so you don't know what you're going to get. But I'm sure they're going to be a program that's going to come here and expect to win and fight. And our guys are going to have to be ready that weekend going back-to-back weigh-ins, wrestling Brown in West Virginia. It's another test that I want to see where we're at. A lot of this next year is going to be weight management, so that's why we're doing a lot of these back-to-back weigh-ins, keep our guys honest and let them know if they need to work on anything. And that weekend, that's going to be a alumni weekend. We have a couple events in store that with time we'll release what we're doing, but that's going to be one that I feel like a lot of alumni are going to come back for and support what we're doing.
You're mentioning a lot of weight management. Is this extending to coaches and staff as well?
Absolutely. I don't think you have to worry about Coach Hall working out 4 times a day. Stair stepper might have to do a little bit more on there.
Might have to get a second Stairmaster.
Yeah, well, I think we have to hold our whole staff accountable, even our podcast staff.
Dude, this guy works out. The one day he gets off a week, he works out.
What about the Mountain Dew?
Yeah. I'm drinking a Snapple today, so. Then you threw me off now.
I could tell. Your face is getting red on me.
I wrote down all these notes, and here you're sidetracking. But the next weekend, you guys host Drexel January 19th. Drexel, 12-4 last year. They finished in the top 25. Yet again, another tough matchup against another team you guys haven't seen before.
Yeah, and that's something new. This year we're getting a lot of new teams, so a lot of new looks for our program and our guys. And Drexel, yes, they have a lot of good, young, quality kids on their team. Coach Azevedo does a phenomenal job. And I think it's the same thing. He wanted to see something new, so coming down here, and then we'll obviously get on the road next year and getting that up there in PA as well and wrestling. So some new home and away series that are being created, and looking forward to some new competition that we don't typically get to see every year until it's the NCAA tournament.
And the rest of the schedule consists of 5 straight ACC duels to end the regular season before the ACC and NCAA championships in March. This year's ACC slate shapes up as Duke and Pitt here in Raleigh, with road trips to Virginia, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech. Do you coaches set the dates and locations for the conference duels, or are those set by the ACC?
Yeah, those are dates that are, we talked about earlier. Every dual meet's kind of mapped out on a schedule, and then the rotation for the hosting the ACCs. Typically, if a school wants in, they'll just fall into order on repeating through the years, kind of following what we did. What took us off course a little bit was when Reynolds was getting renovated. We kind of had it drop down, and I feel like one of the teams slid in there, so we dropped down to their spot. And it's something that is already mapped out. I think we already know the next 5 years of where they're going to be and when they're going to be, the weekends. So, yeah, that's not something we get to decide. I think it's administrators putting that on a schedule and working it out.
And Duke is going to be in Reynolds on January 25th. Pitt comes to town February 10th. Sandwich in between those is a duel up at Virginia on February 1st. But the last 2 duels are both on the road for you guys. At North Carolina, February 15th. Then at Virginia Tech on February 24th. Tough way to end the regular season with back-to-back road trips in what will hopefully determine the ACC dual championship.
Yeah, I think every one of those duels in the ACC now has become very challenging and ones that you always have to be ready for, which is great. Our conference has arrived and hitting on all cylinders now, with teams being ranked as high as they are and individuals winning nationals and All-Americans coming from basically every team in the conference. So that's what we wanted, and I think it's helping every team prepare when it comes time to wrestle in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, we got to be ready for all those. Looking forward to an exciting season with the ACC and, yeah, ending it out on the way we are on the road. It's just kind of the way our schedule fell into it this year. And, we got a lot of home dates. So the ones we have, people hopefully have it on their calendar. Season tickets is going to be critical. We want a double of what we did last year, so we need everybody to go out and support. Even if you can't make every competition, at least holding season tickets, that stuff matters and helps with our program.
I was going to get to season tickets. You're skipping ahead here a little bit.
All right. Well, we can hit on it again.
Well, hold on. I had a good line coming up. You guys might as well stay up in Blacksburg because the ACC Championship is going to be contested in Castle Coliseum on March 9th. Then the NCAA Championships will be held in Pittsburgh March 21st through 23rd. But the work you guys are doing now is for the month of March. What an exciting time to already be thinking about this.
Yeah, it seems like it's far away, but never too early to plan. But yeah, it is. Dual meets and all this fun, they're exciting, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to one weekend of action-packed wrestling. We learned that last year and years before. We try to put a plan together to put our guys in the best situation to peak at the right time and be battle-tested and ready. And I feel like this schedule gives them a good balance of that. And we'll probably hit some tournaments with some individuals here and there as well. So won't count out every tournament that's on the schedule, but probably won't go as a team. But you might see some individuals pop up wrestling in some of these open tournaments, Scuffle and Midlands included.
And with the schedule now complete, fans can go buy season tickets to all the great home action in Reynolds for this upcoming season. To purchase those season tickets, just go to gopack.com/buy tickets. And this complete 2018-19 schedule will be up on gopack.com shortly if you want to check out all the details. But some great home crowds last year, maybe some surprises for this upcoming season, which we're not announcing yet. But Pat, even before the schedule came out, lots of season tickets were sold. So a lot of excitement to see this team this upcoming season.
Yeah, appreciate everybody getting on board and purchasing season tickets. I know a couple people sent me their screenshots of their ticket orders, so much appreciated. Bill, Nick, we're still waiting on you to put your order in. A couple other people. But yeah, that stuff matters. It's big. I think we're going to have a huge following this year come NCAAs. Tickets are hard to come across. Our seating should be pretty good coming off last year's performance. So I know Melissa will be sending out information here as the season progresses, but we need as many people as we can get in the stands this year to continue to build momentum and all the hard work and commitment that, administration, staff, and our athletes are putting into this. It's a way for them to be rewarded. So we need to continue to grow that.
Pat, that was one heck of a lead-in I set you up for to sell tickets.
Yes.
That is how you sell tickets.
You did it. Good job.
Buy those season tickets.
I owe you a good steak dinner.
But Pat, thanks for breaking down the schedule. A lot of action. We're coming up here. The start of practice is going to be coming back. And I want to mention, too, a lot of your RTC guys, they're in a lot of action here in the next couple of months.
Yeah, busy month across the board. Season starting. We got guys going all over the country and the world right now, putting Tommy, Lee Davis, Timmy. Those guys are out in Russia right now, so they're out there competing. Mock and Nick are at the training center, and then you got Hayden and possibly another guy, not Mock, who will be wrestling UW 23s. Just on the way that it fell, we'll had a probably addition to somebody competing out there because he was the next guy in line. So some good stuff, all the things that we need to continue to build and put our guys at the best position to win national titles.
I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack!
The Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to MatTalkOnline.com.